Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. We are going to cover topic today, pH disturbances. So, what are the objectives which we are going to cover in pH disturbances? Let's see. These are the learning objectives, and we are going to cover what is pH, what is normal pH, how body is going to how pH is maintained by the systems in our body. What are the mechanisms which are involved and what are the organs which are involved in the regulation of the pH? What happens when the pH is going to disturb or, dysregulation of the pH occurs inside the body? What are the biochemical consequences? What is acidosis and alkalosis? What are the compensatory mechanisms as a result of pH disbalances? So, what are the body's natural compensatory mechanisms? Are they present or no? And what are these and what organs are involved? Then we will discuss some arterial blood gases, the process by which we can diagnose the pH disturbances in the blood. And also the role of ABGs, arterial blood gases in the compensation of the metabolic pH. First of all, in order to understand the pH disturbances, we must have a clear concept of what is pH. By definition, we can say that pH is the negative log of hydrogen ion concentration. Okay, now what is this hydrogen ion concentration? Hydrogen ion concentration, actually, if we are talking about the negative log of hydrogen ion concentration or power of hydrogen ion concentration, then we should know what is hydrogen ion first. Hydrogen ion is a single proton. It's just a free single proton. And from where it is coming, it is released from a chemical substance which when dissolved in water, it is going to dissociate and release these single protons in the solution. Okay, means when a chemical substance, a type of chemical substance, when it is going to dissolve in aqueous solution, water or any aqueous solution, it is going to dissociate and gives protons in the solution in a form of single free proton. So what are these chemical substances and what are they called? These are said to be acids. These are the chemical substances which when dissolved in aqueous solution or in water, they release hydrogen ions. And those chemical substances which have such a capability to release hydrogen ions, dissociation and then release of hydrogen ion, these chemical substances are known as acids. So it means that those chemical substances which are capable of producing and releasing more and more hydrogen ions in the solution, they are said to be strong acids because they dissociate completely and rapidly in the solution and dissociate completely and release all of the hydrogen ions which are present in their structures. An example of such strong acids is, one of the example is hydrochloric acid, although other strong acids are also present like sulfuric acid, nitric acid. These all are strong acids and they have the tendency to dissociate completely in water or any aqueous solution, to dissociate completely and release all of the hydrogen ions in large amount in the solution. They will dissociate into hydrogen ions and their respective element. So aqueous solution means any solution which is made up of water. Okay. Now, on the other hand, weak acids are those acids that have little tendency to dissociate in the water or aqueous solution and dissociate only partially and release only less amount of hydrogen ion. Means they are not going to release all the hydrogen ions which is present in their structure, only dissociate partially. So such type of acids produce less hydrogen ions, less amount of hydrogen ion in the solution. An example of such acids is carbonic acid, which release only few amounts of hydrogen ions in the solution. On the other hand, there are other type of chemical substances which when dissolved in water or aqueous solution, they don't give up hydrogen ions. Instead, they have hydroxyl ions in their structure. And also due to the presence of OH ions in their structure, hydroxyl ion is this. okay, which is the negatively charged ion, and hydrogen ions are positively charged protons, they are negatively charged ions. So bases are those chemical substances which possess OH in their structure and which when dissolved in water, they are going to dissociate to release OH ions. Once they release OH ions, they have the tendency to attract these hydrogen ions because they are negatively charged ions, they have tendency to attract positive ions. So we can say that bases are those chemical substances that can accept hydrogen ions. And again, they are divided into two types, the strong bases and weak bases. Strong bases react strongly with hydrogen ions. They have more attraction for hydrogen ions and in the water, whereas weak bases bind weakly with the hydrogen ions. So here there are two categories, and strong bases are also said to be alkalis. Or in order to understand, for our better understanding, we can say in other words that acids are hydrogen donors. Means when they are dissolved in water in aqueous solution, they donate hydrogen ions to the solution, whereas bases are hydrogen acceptors or give up OH or hydroxyl ions in the solution. So bases are hydrogen acceptors and acids are hydrogen donors. They may be strong and weak. Again, strong acids and bases dissociate completely in the solution. Bases also dissociate in the solution. Strong bases dissociate fully, completely, and release more and more OH ions, whereas strong bases dissociate to give more and more hydrogen ions. So strong acids or bases dissociate completely, fully. In the solution, whatever ions are present in their structure, if acids, hydrogen ions are present, if bases, OH ions are present. So strong bases and acids, they give up all their OH and H ions in the solution. Examples of strong acid are hydrochloric acid and strong bases sodium hydroxide. These are hydroxide ions, and any substance having OH in the structure or suffix hydroxide, so that are bases, like sodium hydroxide, potassium hydroxide, calcium hydroxide, all are bases. Okay. Now weak acid and bases, they dissociate only partially in solution. Like example of acid, weak acid is lactic acid and carbonic acid. Now, in order to determine whether the solution is acidic or basic, and how much acidic and how much basic, at what extent the solution is acidic, and at what extent the solution is basic, means if the beakers are placed in front of us, we don't know, but by just looking at the beakers that the solution is acidic or basic. So there are some like methods by which we can calculate the pH of the solution. Once we calculate, how are we going to categorize them and how we are going to rank them, whether the acid is pH and whether the pH is acidic or basic and how strong it is. For that, the pH scale is present, and it is designed to understand and to calculate the strength of acid or strength of bases, means how much acidity or basicity is present in the solution. So pH scale actually is designed to calculate the strength of acid or base in the solution. Its range is from 0 to 14. Okay, and we can look at the scale over here. This is the pH scale. 7 is said to be and identified as the neutral pH. If we identify the pH of the solution 7, it means there is no acid and no base in the solution, just a salt is present. If we move towards left side, the acidity or hydrogen ion concentration increases, and we say that if the solution has pH 1, 2, or 3, or starting from 0 to 6, the solution is said to be acidic. Or if the solution, the calculated pH of the solution is starting from 8 to 14, we can say that the solution is basic. So how can we determine the strength of acidity and basicity? Again here, if the pH of any solution is 1. So it means it is more acidic, and having more hydrogen ions in the solution. Similarly, 2 is more acidic, strong acid. 3 is also strong acid, and slightly it is going down towards the neutral pH. So we can say that the pH of the strong acid must be 1 or 2 within the range of 1 to 3. So if hydrogen ion concentration is high, if more and more hydrogen ions are present in the solution, it means the solution is acidic. In such type of solutions having pH 1, it means more and more hydrogen ions are present. The hydrogen ion concentration is means this type of solution contains highest amount of hydrogen ion concentration. And oppositely, the pH 14 indicating highest amount of OH ion concentration means this is the strong base which is said to be alkali. So we can say that solution is said to be more acidic if it has high concentration of hydrogen ion. If it has low concentration of hydrogen ion, then it is said to be weak acid, or if we move more further from neutral pH, we can say that the solution is basic. We usually determine the basicity with the help of hydroxide ion concentration. If more and more OH ions are present in the solution, the pH of the solution is more basic. Okay, so pH scale is actually used to determine the acidity, strength of the acidity and alkalinity of any solution. So how body is going to maintain the pH? We can understand it by looking at the normal pH ranges of the blood and extracellular. Usually, the normal pH of the extracellular fluid is 7.4, and blood pH is in the range of 7.35 to 7.45. And this pH, the pH of the extracellular fluid and the pH of the blood, is tightly controlled by the homeostasis mechanisms of the body, and it is tightly controlled. But there are certain circumstances, the disease conditions, or in certain conditions, there are so many conditions in which the pH changes. If it change beyond the range of 7.5 or 7.35, below 7.35 or above 7.45, then this is said to be the pH disturbances. And if it is going beyond the range to the extreme side, for example, greater than 8 or greater than, or we can say less than 6.8, then death occurs, because the body cannot resist such extreme pH changes. Body can compensate slight pH changes, and body fights against the pH disturbances and the dysregulation of the pH, and body try to compensate as much as it can. But extreme pH changes, body cannot compensate and death occurs. So the pH change where acid concentration is high means much high concentration of hydrogen ions in the blood, or we can say the blood is acidic. That condition is known as acidosis. And the condition is said to be alkalosis when the pH becomes high, means OH ions concentration is more as compared to hydrogen ion concentration, then the pH is more basic, or we can say the condition is alkalosis or alkalemia, means more and more alkali in the blood and more acid in the blood. That is said to be acidemia and alkalemia. And what is the pH range? If the pH in acidosis, pH declines or decreases below 7.35, or in case of alkalosis, the pH increases above 7.45. So these are the conditions where pH disturbances occur, and these conditions are said to be acidosis and alkalosis. So pH of the arterial blood is normally, this is the survival range, as we discussed, 7.35 to 7.45. This is the normal pH range of this range. normal pH range of the arterial blood. Beyond this range, acidosis occurs either on the left side or on the right side. Acidosis occurs on the left side, and if pH increases above this range, that is said to be alkalosis. If pH decreases below 7.35, that is known as acidosis. Moreover, the change in pH If there is a net change in pH of 1, like 1 degree, okay, if there is a net change of pH of 1 only, actually it means it corresponds to a 10-fold change. It is considered as a 10-fold change in the either hydrogen ion concentration or hydroxyl ion concentration. Why? Because pH is a logarithmic value, and net change in pH of 1 actually considered and correspond to 10-fold change in the either hydrogen ion or hydroxyl ion concentration. For example, for your convenience, that if the pH of the blood decreases from 7.5 to 6.5, it means a 10-fold increase in hydrogen ion concentration. Or in the same way, if the pH of the blood increase from 7.5 to 8.5, again, it is going to correspond to a 10-fold change. So every net change of 1, pH of 1, if only there is a change of pH means at a degree of 1 only, so it is going to correspond to a 10-fold change. Now, what are the causes of acidosis and alkalosis? What happened? Why the dysregulation occur in the body? There are two circumstances usually. Either acid is going to accumulate more, or there are loss of bases. In both of these conditions, either there is accumulation of more and more hydrogen ions in the blood, or loss of bases. In both conditions, there are increased concentration of hydrogen ion. Loss of bases means loss of OH ions. So in that condition also, the concentration of hydrogen ion increases, and as a result, the pH drops, leading to the condition of acidosis. On the other hand, loss of acids or accumulation of bases, in both conditions, there is decreased concentration of hydrogen ions in the blood, and in both circumstances, pH rises, and that condition is said to be alkalosis. Acidosis and alkalosis is not a disease actually, but it is created or it is generated as a result of wide variety of disorders. It itself not a disorder or disease, but alkalosis and acidosis, these conditions, arises in the body due to as a result of wide variety of disorders. And it is very useful in finding out the underlying cause of the disorder. It is very helpful in understanding and in diagnosing the disorder or disease or any serious metabolic problem. Body produces more acids than bases. How? Acids taken with foods in the form of carbohydrate, lipids, and proteins, and all have the same structure, all have hydrogen and carbon in their structure, means they possess hydrocarbon chains. In this way, hydrogen comes inside our body. Secondly, once we get in these components through our diet, metabolism of these biomolecules like carbohydrate, lipids, and proteins, they produce acids as a result of the metabolism. The acids which are going to be produced are lactic acid, pyruvic acid, acetoacetic acid. These are some examples which can be produced in our body as a result of the metabolism of carbohydrate, proteins, and lipids. Now, what are the other circumstances in which the acids are going to be produced in our body? The cellular metabolism. Cellular metabolism produces carbon dioxide. We know that we take in oxygen, and carbon dioxide produced at every level, at every tissue. And when the carbon dioxide is produced at the cellular level, this carbon dioxide is then dissolved in the blood. Carbon dioxide, this is the first of all, just look at the reaction of how carbon dioxide is produced. This is the chemical formula for carbohydrates, glucose. It is going to be decomposed into carbon dioxide and water, and energy is produced through the electron transport chain. We know that at the cellular level, this is known as cellular respiration, through which energy in the form of ATP is produced by the complete oxidation of glucose to carbon dioxide and water. Once this carbon dioxide is produced, this is diffuses into the bloodstream and form carbonic acid. How it is going to form carbonic acid? Because the water, because the enzyme is present in the blood, which is known as carbonic anhydrase, and it is going to catalyze the reaction. That is the conversion of carbon dioxide to carbonic acid. Because in the blood, carbon dioxide is going to dissolve in the water, and with the help of the enzyme carbonic anhydrase, it is going to produce bicarbonate. It is going to produce carbonic acid. This is the formula for carbonic acid. Okay, so carbonic acid is produced, which is then going to dissociate into hydrogen ion and bicarbonate ion. So this is the process by which again we get hydrogen ions in our blood. Carbonic acid, which is produced as a result of the diffusion of carbon dioxide in the water, is known as volatile acid. Why volatile acid? Is not fixed acid, because it is produced from the carbon dioxide gas. So you can see here that inside the blood, the carbon dioxide, when the more and more carbon dioxide is dissolved, means more and more hydrogen ions are produced, and as a result, the pH is going to be decreased. The pH of the blood is going to be decreased. But if less amount of carbon dioxide diffuses into the blood, less amount of carbonic acid is produced and less hydrogen ions are produced. So in this case, pH decreases. Usually the ratio of when the carbonic acid is going to dissociate into hydrogen and bicarbonate ions, the ratio of bicarbonate ions and carbonic acid is in the blood is maintained at the ratio of 20:1. It is always maintained, and it is the normal ratio at which the body must maintain in order to maintain the pH of the blood. So deviations from this ratio 20:1, it is actually lead to the acid-base imbalances, and we can also identify whether the acid-base imbalance occur in the body by the change in this ratio, identifying change in this ratio. So this figure is also indicating the same factor, that how carbon dioxide is diffuses. It is produced in the tissues with the help of cellular respiration, then it diffuses into the bloodstream and goes inside the red blood cells. Inside the red blood cells, the enzyme carbonic anhydrase is present, which is going to catalyze the reaction between carbon dioxide and water to produce carbonic acid first, which is then going to dissociate into hydrogen and bicarbonate ions. Bicarbonate ions thus formed then leaves the blood cells into the blood circulation in exchange of chloride ions. So this is known as chloride shift. In the system circulation, in exchange of chloride ions, bicarbonate leaves the red blood cells. So this is the normal process of the production of bicarbonate ions and hydrogen ions. What are the other sources by which hydrogen ions can be produced? Certain medications also increase or stimulate the production of hydrochloric acid in our stomach. Normally, our stomach produces hydrochloric acid, but if it is produced in excess, this may be the result of certain medications such as anticholinergic drugs, tricyclic antidepressant. These all these drugs are going to increase the concentration of HCl. Moreover, some disease processes also produces acid in the body, like ketoacidosis is the condition, means untreated in the untreated diabetes mellitus. The ketoacidosis occur when the sugar is depleted and not utilized by the cells of the body. Then ketone bodies are produced to provide energy, supplemental energy, and that condition is known as ketoacidosis because of the production of ketone bodies. So why the pH homeostasis is compulsory means it is why it is compulsory that the body should maintain the normal pH, because small changes, even the small changes, a fraction of changes in the pH can produce large disturbances. How? We know enzymes, all the biochemical reactions are dependent on enzymes. So enzymes, different enzymes functions particularly at particular pH. So if that pH environment is not available to the enzymes, to the particular enzyme, they cannot function, and ultimately the result will be the inhibition of that particular pathway or process in which those enzymes are working. So small changes in pH or fluctuations in pH will lead to large changes, means enzyme function will stop. Moreover, acid-base imbalance can also affect electrolytes, because this is also tightly controlled. The sodium, potassium, and chloride channels. With the help of these channels, the electrolyte balance is maintained in the body. But these electrolyte balances also get affected when there are imbalances in the acid-base balance. Also affect hormonal activities, because most hormones also, they only work within a particular pH ranges. Regarding enzyme, we can see that enzyme shape of the enzyme can change, and this is the normal active side of the enzyme, which is at particular pH at which the substrate can bind. But change in the pH actually changes the structure of the enzyme, and the shape of the active site also changes. So substrate, as a result, substrate is not going to bind or completely or get fit into the active site as a result, due to altered shape because of the denatured enzyme. As a result, the enzyme activity is going to be inhibited. We talked about the electrolyte balances, how it is going to be affected by the pH disturbances. The main and common cause is hypokalemia. Hypokalemia, how it occurs, usually what is the normal process when the kidneys are reabsorbing sodium from the filtrate. So usually what happens, the potassium ions are the ones which are going to be excreted in exchange of the reabsorption of the sodium. But what happens when the pH increases, the more and more hydrogen ion concentrations are increased, and that condition is known as acidosis. So instead of potassium, more and more hydrogen ion is going to leave and excreted. As a result, potassium remains trapped inside the red blood cell, and that is known as the retention of the potassium, and less concentration and lack of concentration in the bloodstream. So that is known as hypokalemia, and as a result, because potassium is very important electrolyte for the nerve excitability, and it is actually affecting heart. The most important organ which is affected is the heart. So that's why the potassium retention inside the cell can affect cardiac function and other systems. So how body compensate and fight against such pH imbalances? There are natural mechanisms present in our body by nature. These are mainly three types, three mechanisms: buffer system, respiratory system, and renal control. These systems are present in our body naturally. So whenever there are pH shifts or pH changes, so these systems one by one can recognize the change or shift of pH, and body try to compensate with the help of these natural mechanisms. First of all, we are going to discuss buffer systems. What are buffers? First of all, in order to understand buffer system, buffers are the chemical solutions or chemical substances that resist changes in pH, because they have the capabilities and tendency to take up a hydrogen or release hydrogen as the condition changes. For example, these are how they are resisting changes. If the pH increases, more and more hydrogen ions increases, they take up hydrogen, and in this way they resist changes. If the hydrogen ion concentration decreases, they release hydrogen from their structure and maintain the pH. Because how they are doing so? Because they are made up of the pair of weak acid and its conjugate base. So weak acid, if the more and more hydrogen ions are produced, the weak acid accept hydrogen ions to become a strong acid and maintain the pH. And its conjugate base is the less acid is there, less hydrogen ion concentration is there, then its conjugate base, which it is going to maintain the pH by adding OH ions. Therefore, buffers actually exchange strong acid or base for a weak one. If a strong acid is added, then the base will work. If a strong base is added, then the acid which is present in the weak acid which is present in the buffer, it will work. So both work together, the conjugate base and weak acid, and in this way they resist the pH change that will result in much smaller pH change. Because buffers are made up of weak acid and its conjugate base, they only partially dissociated. So they work as best at the pH at which they are 50% dissociated only. Why strong acids and base are not why buffers are not made up of strong acids and bases? Because we have done already in the slides in the beginning that the strong acids and bases, they dissociate completely. Okay, so if buffers are made up of strong acid and bases, how they are going to resist the changes in the pH? Because they themselves are going to add hydrogen ions and hydroxyl ions in the solution. So that's why buffers are always made up of weak acids and their conjugate bases, and they work best at the pH at which they are 50% dissociated. So moreover, this system reacts within a fraction of a second, means as soon as the pH shift occurs in our body, pH change occurs in the body buffer system reacts within a fraction of a second to maintain the pH change. So in this way, this is the reason the pH of the extracellular fluid is extremely dependent on the buffer system, efficient buffer system, not other systems, other mechanisms, compensatory mechanisms. But ECF is totally and chiefly dependent on the efficient buffer system because it reacts within a fraction of a second. Another is the respiratory mechanism. Respiratory mechanism, how it is going to compensate by the exhalation of carbon dioxide. How? Because, for example, if the pH increases, more and more carbon dioxide can be exhaled out in the form, so in this way, less carbon dioxide gets accumulated in the blood and less carbonic acid is formed. So the release of carbon dioxide will be very helpful in the release of hydrogen ions. So in this way, it is also a powerful system, but only works with the volatile acid because only it works with the carbonic acid, because not with the fixed acid like lactic acid. The respiratory system cannot get rid of other acids, isn't it? Because through lungs we can only exhale carbon dioxide, not any other thing like lactic acid. So, and body pH can be adjusted by changing rate and depth of breathing. So in this way, if the more acid is present in our blood, hydrogen ion concentration in the blood, more and more carbon dioxide is produced and it can be exhaled out. So by adjusting so body can compensate by adjusting the change in rate and depth of breathing. Renal mechanism is the most effective regulator of the pH, and because kidneys are able to eliminate large amount of acids also, and kidneys are also capable of excreting bases. So moreover, not only they are effective in excretion and elimination, but kidneys can also conserve and produce bicarbonate ions. They also have capability and tendency to retain ions. So that's why. Because this is the most effective regulator, if kidneys fail, pH balance fails. How kidneys compensate? By the secretion of hydrogen ions, reabsorption of bicarbonate ions, and production of new bicarbonate ions. Through renal and ammonia metabolism. Renal ammonia metabolism can produce bicarbonate ions, which you have already done in urea cycle. So we talked about the buffer systems. So what type of buffer systems are present in the body? Naturally, the buffer systems which are present in the body are bicarbonate buffer system. First of all, bicarbonate buffer system is present. It is most important buffer of the blood and extracellular fluid. This buffer is made up of carbonic acid. It's a combination of carbonic acid, which is a weak acid, and its conjugate base, which is sodium bicarbonate. So this ratio is always maintained, as we know, as we discussed, that the ratio of 20:1 is always maintained for bicarbonate and carbonic acid. Another system is the phosphate buffer. It is the major buffer in intracellular fluid, in extracellular fluid and blood. The most important buffer is bicarbonate buffer. A phosphate buffer is the buffer of ICF. It is also maintained and it is made up of phosphoric acid, weak acid, and biphosphate ions. Protein buffer system is also a very strong buffer system. It includes hemoglobin and it also works in blood and intracellular fluid. How? We know that hemoglobin is a protein. It is made up of carboxyl and carboxylic group amino group. Carboxyl group is acidic. It is carboxylic acid attached in the amino acid. So it can give up hydrogen ions. Amino group accept hydrogen ions because those are bases acting as a basis. Whereas there are certain amino acids which have acidic and basic side chains and neutral pH. These are arginine, lysine, and histidine. They have basic side chains, so they can accept protons. If the hydrogen ion concentration increases in the blood beyond the range, they can accept protons, or they can lose protons if the amino acids are aspartic acid and glutamic acid, so they have acidic side chains, so they can lose. If we compare the different mechanisms and how they respond, so buffers functions almost instantaneously. We discussed that within a fraction of a second, buffers function and respond to the slight shift in pH. Then comes to respiratory mechanism. It can take several minutes to hours because, you know, the ventilation and the adjustment of the breathing rate, it takes time, and ventilation and the removal of carbon dioxide, it takes certain minutes to hours. While the renal mechanism, although it's the most effective one, but it may take several hours to days to compensate. We can look at here the first line of defense against pH shift and second line of defense against pH shift. So chemical buffers are the first line of defense that the body responds very quickly with the help of this chemical system that is which is the buffer system. Bicarbonate, phosphate, and protein buffer. This is the second line of defense, the physiological buffer. They are said to be physiological buffers, which includes the respiratory mechanism and renal mechanism. So we already discussed that the condition when the pH decreases below 7.35 is known as acidosis and above 7.45 is alkalosis. When body responds to such changes, that is known as compensation. Body means we can say that body is going to compensate. Natural response of the body against the pH change or imbalances, acid-base imbalance is known as compensation. So there may be two types of compensation. Body may be compensate or respond fully or completely, and means if the pH brought back within normal limits, so it is said to be complete compensation. If the conditions, normal conditions, come back. But if the body is only able to compensate or adjust pH only partially, so that is said to be partial compensation if range of the pH is still out of normal values. Compensation may be, metabolic and respiratory. We discussed that respiratory compensation is through ventilation. One thing very important to note down, you can memorize it very easily, that if the underlying problem of the pH change means if the acid-base imbalance is due to metabolic disturbances, so always the compensatory mechanism of the body is respiratory. And oppositely, if the pH imbalance is due to respiratory conditions, so the compensation is always metabolic. So they are vice versa. The respiratory compensation is hyperventilation or hypoventilation. If more hydrogen ions, so body want to remove hydrogen ions in the form of they are formed in the form of carbonic acid is formed, then that is going to dissociate into hydrogen and carbon dioxide, and more carbon dioxide is exhaled out. So hyperventilation may work when the hydrogen ion concentration increases, and hyperventilation means when the hydrogen ion concentration is low inside the blood, so breathing rate decreases and carbon dioxide is trapped. So in this way, body can adjust when the reason is or cause is metabolic. In the same way, when the cause is respiratory, so metabolic compensation by the kidneys. Arterial blood gas is very important to find out the underlying cause. It is a blood test that is performed using blood from the artery. So the blood is collected from the arteries, and it is tested for oxygen and carbon dioxide concentration. This test is used, for example, if the patient is conscious, we cannot find if somebody or the physicians are not reaching to the diagnosis. So this ABG test is very important. They can take a drain or they can take out blood from the artery and check for the concentration of oxygen and carbon dioxide in the blood, and they can find out the pH. So this test is used to determine the pH of the blood and the partial pressure of carbon dioxide and oxygen and the bicarbonate levels. So these conditions can tell us and can tell the physicians about the underlying cause, whether it is metabolic or respiratory and whatever the changes occur. This is the analyzer of ABG gas. There are other types of analyzers also. There are so many types available in the market. You can check through internet. ABG values, normal values are pH should be in the range of 7.35 to 7.45. Partial pressure of carbon dioxide is this range, 35 to 45 millimeter of mercury. Partial pressure of oxygen should be within the range of 75 to 105 millimeter of mercury. Bicarbonate, the normal range is 20 to 26 millimoles per liter, and base plus minus 3 values can be acceptable. So these values, if there are any changes in the ABG, arterial blood, if there are deviations from these values, so that can tell us many things about the underlying cause of the patient. So now we are starting the types of acidosis and alkalosis. Acidosis, again, it's a brief review. Again, that it's a condition when there is the blood is too much acid or too little base, so that is known as the acidosis. There are two types of acidosis: respiratory and metabolic. Respiratory acidosis, as we discussed, it is due to carbonic acid excess. When more and more carbonic acid is formed inside the blood, and the partial pressure of carbon dioxide reaches above 45 millimeter, because in ABG normal gas range, normal blood, we discussed that the range is 45 millimeter, normal range is 45 millimeter of mercury. But if the level of carbon dioxide reaches above 45, then it is said to be respiratory acidosis. Why it is respiratory acidosis? Because it is due to the formation of carbonic acid. Carbonic acid is formed always with the help of carbon dioxide. So if the carbon dioxide levels increases, carbonic acid concentration increases, and this will lead to respiratory acidosis. Because the cause is respiratory due to carbon dioxide, that's why it is said to be respiratory acidosis. And in this condition, lungs are unable to expel carbon dioxide adequate. Means this condition is known as hypercapnia, that is high levels of carbon dioxide in the blood. And normal ratio, is 1:20 always for carbonic acid and bicarbonate, but it exceeds the limit and breathing is suppressed here in this condition. Holding carbon dioxide, it is not expelled out. That's why the concentration of the ratio of bicarbonic acid increases and it becomes 2:20 instead of 1:20. Why there are certain conditions why carbon dioxide is trapped and cannot be expelled out properly out of the lungs. There are certain conditions like obstruction of air passages, depression of respiratory centers in the brain that controls breathing rate, or decreased gas exchange, or paralysis of respiratory chest muscle. Moreover, the habit of taking sedatives also depress respiratory rate, and in this way carbon dioxide is trapped and person can develop respiratory acidosis if he or she is taking narcotics or any other sedatives. So Strong sleeping medications also slow down respiration. Signs and symptoms are breathlessness, restlessness, lethargy and disorientation, tremors, convulsions, respiratory rate rapid then gradually depressed, so skin warm, flushed, and due to vasodilation caused by excess carbon dioxide. As I told you before, if the cause is respiratory, the compensation is always metabolic. So here, respiratory acidosis compensation is metabolic, that is, kidneys come in action and kidneys eliminate hydrogen ions and retain bicarbonate ions. Treatment may be to restore ventilation and giving lactate solution. What lactate solution is giving? Lactate is actually converting in the liver, lactate is converting into bicarbonate. There is a process in which lactate, with the help of normal mechanism, it is metabolized to glycogen, then glucose, and glucose break down to carbon dioxide and water, and then generating with the help of same mechanism, carbon dioxide dissolve in water, forming bicarbonate ions, and in this way generating bicarbonate ions. So that's why lactate solution is going to be given in order to generate more and more carbonate ions to maintain the balance of hydrogen ions. These are the conditions. Normal circumstances, the ratio is always 1:20 for carbonic acid and bicarbonate. In respiratory acidosis, breathing is suppressed and holding carbon dioxide ratios disturbed, reaching to 2:20. Then body compensate through kidney mechanisms, renal mechanisms, metabolic compensation occur, and kidneys, conserve bicarbonate ions and eliminate hydrogen ions. So acidic urine is formed in such conditions. And treatment is also given in the, you can see here that the ratio is coming back to normal slightly. Previously it was 2:20, but now it becomes 30 just by the kidney compensation. Then external treatment, with the help of external treatment by giving lactate solution, the ratio ratio usually come back to normal. So always remember that in case of acidosis, whether it is metabolic or respiratory, the therapy is always lactate solution. Metabolic acidosis, it occurs due to bicarbonate deficit. The respiratory acidosis, what we have discussed in that was due to the excess of carbonic acid. Here, opposite condition developed due to metabolic, cause. That is the deficiency of bicarbonate ions in the blood, and bicarbonate ion concentration drops below 22 milliequivalent per liter. Causes may be loss of bicarbonate ions through diarrhea or renal dysfunction. When there is more and more diarrhea, bicarbonate loss, so more hydrogen ion will increase. Accumulation of acids, like in the diabetic condition, maybe lactic acid or ketones, or failure of kidneys to excrete hydrogen ions. Any of these conditions, in any of these conditions, will lead to metabolic acidosis. Means the deficiency of bicarbonate ions. Symptoms are headache, lethargy, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and loss of electrolytes, coma, death. I told you that if the cause is metabolic, the compensation is respiratory. If the cause is respiratory, compensation is metabolic. So here we are discussing metabolic acidosis. So compensation is respiratory. What is compensation? Increased ventilation. What increased ventilation will cause? Increased ventilation with the help of more exhalation of carbon dioxide. So less carbon means the formation of carbonic acid and dissociation of carbonic acid into carbon dioxide, and in this way the concentration of carbonic acid decreases in the blood due to hyperventilation. On the other side, renal excretion, slightly the renal compensation also occur, and if possible to excrete more hydrogen ions. Electrolyte balances also changes, means potassium exchange with excess hydrogen, and ECF means in hypokalemia we discussed that potassium retained in the cells, but here in metabolic acidosis more and more hydrogen will go out of the cells, and more and more hydrogen go trapped into the cells instead of potassium, and potassium out. So this is the respiratory regulation, as I told you, that formation of carbonic acid and dissociation into carbon dioxide for exhalation. Increased partial pressure of carbon dioxide stimulate respiratory center, and in this way rate of and depth of breathing increases. This is the opposite process, that how kidneys compensate and how how carbon dioxide is exhaled out. It is going into the lung tissue for exhalation. This is the opposite movement of bicarbonate into the bicarbonate diffuses back into RBCs, and in the pulmonary capillaries, this process is going on and react with hydrogen ion to form carbon dioxide and water, and carbon dioxide is exhaled out. Again, the treatment is IV lactate solution. I told you, if there is acidosis, whether metabolic or respiratory, the treatment is always lactate solution, because lactate solution is converted into bicarbonate. So we have to achieve actually the concentration of bicarbonate in order to maintain the acidosis. In acidosis, whether metabolic or respiratory, the treatment is always lactate solution, because lactate is converted into bicarbonate. So here we can understand like this. Again, the ratio, normal ratio, then disturbed ratio. Here, this time bicarbonate, there is lack of bicarbonate, deficiency of bicarbonate, loss of bicarbonates, and ratio is disturbed. Kidneys compensates body's compensation through respiratory mechanisms like hyperactive breathing to blow off carbon dioxide, and in this way you can see slightly through respiratory mechanism, body is achieving the normal ratio, slightly going to achieve the normal ratio. On the other hand, kidneys also try hard to conserve bicarbonate and release hydrogen ion in acidic urine. Again, as I told you, the therapy is lactate solution to normalize the bicarbonate ions, to produce bicarbonate ions. So after treatment, you can see the ratio between the carbonic acid and bicarbonate come to normal values. Alkalosis is the condition in which the blood has too much base, too little acid. Again, there are two types of alkalosis, respiratory and metabolic. Respiratory alkalosis, as the name suggests, it is opposite of respiratory acidosis. In that condition, carbonic acid was above the normal range. Here, carbonic acid is deficient due to increased loss of carbon dioxide from lungs. And in respiratory acidosis, the carbon dioxide was trapped, as you remember. In this condition, decreased alveolar and blood carbon dioxide, because there is a loss of carbon dioxide. This condition is known as hypocapnia. In respiratory acidosis, the condition was hypercapnia. This condition is hypocapnia, means less concentration of carbon dioxide in the blood. This is the most common acid-base imbalance, and the primary cause is hyperventilation. What are the causes of hyperventilation? Why hyperventilation occurs? What are the conditions in which hyperventilation occurs? Hyperventilation making the the condition, creating the condition of hypocapnia by a loss of carbon dioxide. Now we come to see that again there is a ratio disturbance. This time less carbonic acid and more bicarbonate, and pH is towards alkaline pH, alkalosis 7.4, above 7.4. What are the conditions that stimulate respiratory center to hyperventilate? Oxygen deficiency. When we go to a high altitude in mountains, there is less oxygen. So in order to take more oxygen, we exhale more carbon dioxide. So this is one of the reasons. Pulmonary disease is also another reason. Congestive heart failure and hypoxia. Due to lack of oxygen, oxygen doesn't reach to the tissues and it causes congestive heart failure. Anxiety also causes hyperventilation. Fever, anemia. In this condition also there is rapid shallow breathing. Certain salicylate intoxication also increased ventilation. So in high altitude, there is less oxygen. So in an attempt to obtain more oxygen, we exhale carbon dioxide. When the cause is respiratory, always the compensation is metabolic. Always remember this point. So again, respiratory alkalosis compensation is metabolic. Kidneys conserve hydrogen ions and excrete bicarbonate ions more. Or breathe into a paper bag or hold the breath may help to raise the carbon dioxide. We can hold our breath to trap carbon dioxide inside our lungs. So this may increase the carbonic acid level in the blood. Or breathe inside the paper bag. Again, okay. That condition in the acidosis, where the metabolic or respiratory, the compensation was, the treatment was lactate solution. Here in alkalosis, whether it is respiratory or metabolic, always the treatment is chloride ions. Why? Because chloride ions replace lost bicarbonate. We discussed in hypokalemia that there is a shift of chloride ions with bicarbonate. Sorry, not in hypokalemia. And in the condition, previous slides, we discussed that bicarbonate ions, they exchange with chloride ions when they go inside and outside of the systemic circulation. So here the normal ratio, abnormal ratio, this time bicarbonate ratio is normal, carbonic acid is low due to hyperactive breathing. Kidneys compensate by conserving hydrogen ions and eliminating bicarbonates, slightly achieving the ratio. Final treatment, final ratio can be achieved with the help of chloride containing solution therapy, and the normal ratio is achieved. 0.5:10 means 1:20. Then metabolic alkalosis. This is due to bicarbonate excess. In respiratory alkalosis, we discussed metabolic acidosis. There was deficiency of bicarbonate, but in metabolic alkalosis, there is excess of bicarbonate. Concentration is greater above 26. Causes are vomiting, loss of stomach acid. In vomiting, stomach acid is lost, bicarbonate concentration increases. Excessive use of alkaline drugs like antacids, diuretics, certain diuretics. Endocrine disorder, hormonal disturbances may be the cause. Heavy ingestion of antacids, severe dehydration. Symptoms of metabolic alkalosis is respiration is slow and shallow and tetany, and it will lead to the depletion of electrolytes. Again, in alkalosis, whether it is metabolic or respiratory, electrolytes are to be replaced by giving chloride ion solution. Here we can see again the chloride ion solution therapy, normal ratio, abnormal ratio, much high concentration of bicarbonate ions. The ratio of bicarbonic acid is normal, but the concentration of bicarbonate ion increases. So breathing suppressed, hypoventilation to hold carbon dioxide. Kidneys conserve hydrogen ions and eliminate bicarbonate and slightly achieve the ratio. Final treatment through chloride ion solution, and normal ratio is achieved. Diagnosis is how you are going to diagnose acid-base imbalance. First of all, if you are given certain condition, you have to find out whether the value of, just look at the values of partial pressure of carbon dioxide, bicarbonate ions. Are they in their normal range or no? So in that condition, you may find out the underlying cause of the problem. So in this way, if the cause is change in partial pressure of carbon dioxide, the problem is respiratory. If the cause is bicarbonate, the problem is metabolic. So metabolic cause is always due to bicarbonate and partial pressure of carbon dioxide. So this is all about your lecture. I hope you understand. And you will receive two videos, two lecture videos of this lecture because it was, disconnection, sudden disconnection of recording in between the lecture. So please follow the two videos for this lecture, and questions, time for questions. So this is for live classes. References, you may find the detailed discussion in Harper, chapter 2, or if you have this physiology book, you may find some literature from this book. All the best. Allah Hafiz.